Hey YouTube, it's Justin here, aka Demonic Sweaters. Today's video is going to be all about throne height or seat height while playing the drums. This video is requested by Yard Sale PDX on my other video about the 3 most common mistakes beginner drummers make. It's called something like that. But anyway, I thought it was a really good idea to talk about that because honestly, I had never thought of making a video like that before. But here we go. So anyway, if you look at how I'm sitting, hopefully you can see that pretty good in that camera down there. You'll notice that, I'm seated kind of high, actually. Not really super high. I'm not like towering over my drums. And these are very, very small drums, just so you know. This is the Tama Club Jam Flyer. I've got a 14-inch bass drum. It is on a lift, 10-inch snare drum, 8-inch tom, and a 10-inch floor tom. And the reason why I decided to shoot the video here rather than my home studio was because this set actually has more space to the side, so I thought I'd have more angles to set up cameras to show you guys the seat height. So that's why I did it here. But the concept is exactly the same, even though it is a very small set. This set goes up a normal height, so even if I were playing a big set, it really wouldn't be any higher than this one is right now. So let's talk about seat height. Now, there's a few things to consider. First off, how do you play your snare drum? Are you a person that likes to hit a rim shot every single time they play their snare drum? A lot of people like this. Some people don't. Some people never hit a rim shot. I kind of do both. There's times where I want to hit rim shots throughout the entire song, and then there's other times, depending on the song, where I won't hit a rim shot at all. It just really depends on what I'm doing. And now, a rim shot being hitting the center of the head and the hoop at the same time, so you get a nice crack when you play the drums, like so. If you hit the center, you get less of a crack, but more of a meatier sound from the snare drum. Okay, so the reason why that's important is because you need to be at a level where you're able to hit that rim shot without landing on your leg with your hand. Now, when I first started playing the drums, in fact, actually the first probably 7 or 8 years I played the drums, I used to do this incorrectly. I would land my hand on my leg every single time I hit the snare for the rim shot, and that was like kind of my crutch to know exactly where to hit. And this is bad. The reason why this is bad is because over time that started to really hurt these fingers from hitting my leg over and over again. And I was starting to get, well, I never got it looked at by a doctor, but it really started to feel like my fingers were kind of fracturing until I finally stopped doing that. Now, it is a little bit hard to get used to, getting a rim shot perfectly every single time when you don't have anything else to land on. You kind of have to have really good, perception as to where your hands are as far as height go in order to land that rim shot perfectly every time. And on this little tiny snare drum, it's even harder, actually. I don't know why, but maybe just because it's such a small diameter, there's a lot less forgiveness as far as landing that rim shot. You notice there, one of those was kind of like choked and I didn't quite get it just perfect. But anyway, if you're somebody that needs to land that rim shot every single time, you want to make sure that your snare is up at least high enough, like I said, to not have to rely on landing on your leg every time you hit your snare. That's really important. Number 2 is your angle of your hips and your knees needs to be considered. If you look at my leg here, I'm kind of like, you'll notice that I'm not bent back behind. My toe is in front of my knee, is what I'm trying to say. And if I look at both legs, I can see my toes. They're not behind my knee. If you look down and you look at your knee and you can't see your toes, then that probably means you're sitting too low. Now, of course, some people say, well, I like to sit really low and, I don't care what you say. That's wrong. It's fine with me to sit really low. And that's fine. If you like sitting really low, you can. However, you should consider a couple of things when you sit really low. One of them is if you're seated up like this and your leg is up above your hips, or your knee is up above your hips when you're playing, that's actually quite hard on your hip joint while you're playing the drums. And over time, that's going to cause some stress injuries to your hip, especially if you're older. You young kids out there, it might not bother you so much. But as you get older, these little things are important. So it's kind of important not to form bad habits from the beginning, so that way, you don't have to change them later on. Another thing too is if you're seated up too high, oops, if you're seated up too high, say you're up like this, and your knee doesn't have enough bend to it, then it's really hard to get good kind of action on your pedals. So you want to be seated, high enough to where your hip isn't, extended up above your body. And you also want to be seated low enough to where your knees still have an angle to them where you can get a nice, rebound from the bass drum pedals and the hi-hat pedal. Double bass drum pedals, it's kind of the same kind of thing. The same rules apply. I have a double bass drum pedal here, and I want to make sure that I can, reach those pedals and I can see my toes. They're not like under my legs, so I don't see them. If I were sitting really low, I wouldn't be able to see my toes. So, I can just barely see them, but I can see them. Another thing I really can't stress enough is make sure you have a high quality drum throne. This drum throne by D-Drum is really nice. I really like this one a lot. It's got a round base on it, and I prefer round bases. Some people like the bicycle style seats, but to me, I don't really like those. They just never really worked well for me. I prefer the round base, and I like something with a nice thick and solid cushion on it and a good strong bass that stays, basically stays put while you're playing the drums. I also really like screw top adjustments here, screw base adjustments. And the reason why I like those is because there's no chance of that thing sliding down while you're playing the drums. Like some of the ones that don't have that, they just have like a memory lock and a standard cymbal stand type screw on there. And I'm not crazy about those either. Another thing that I really cannot stand are the hydraulic type thrones that have the little, like office chair type thing on it that goes like psh, psh, and you can raise up and down. Those things I find to be bouncy, and there's nothing worse than bouncing up and down while you're playing the drums. It's terrible for your lower back. I remember one time I played a gig with a friend of mine, and I used a house kit, and they had one of those rock sock, hydraulic thrones on there. And after that gig, my back hurt me for like 3 days. So avoid those hydraulic type thrones. In my opinion, I just don't like them. Get something nice and solid and heavy. It's different sometimes if you're gigging around a lot and you want something lightweight. I actually do have a lightweight throne that I take with me in those type of situations. But if you're playing longer type gigs, it's definitely worth, or just for practice, it's definitely worth getting a really nice solid throne to sit on. And I'll post a link to this one down below if you want to check it out. Anyway, I think that's good. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. And let me know what you think about the video. And I'll see y'all really soon. Have a great day.